I'm Zane Grant, Executive Director with CASA, or Court Appointed Special Advocates of Pueblo.
I'm Jessi and I'm CASA Pueblo's Development Director.
October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we're here today to talk a little bit about how specifically domestic violence affects children in our community. And during COVID, we know that there were a lot of issues that this brought up for families and children that are involved in not only the child welfare system, but just in the community in general. And so we noticed that child abuse filings actually declined during COVID because children weren't around a lot of the mandatory reporters, but yet our cases did climb. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Our report shows since March of last year, at the height of COVID, we saw a 20% increase in actual child physical abuse cases just in Pueblo alone. So those are pretty alarming numbers to know that, of course, we have abuse and neglect cases, but the actual physical abuse to children went up by 20% in our community.
And you know, for us at CASA, I think we really try to understand the dynamics that intimate partner violence has in families. And there's so much shame, there's so much secrecy, there's just a lot of dynamics that go along with that. And we know our first priority is to try to help women and children be safe, particularly in those situations. And there are some resources in our community. We have some shelter resources, we have some financial resources. But at the end of the day, it's important that people understand that women are 10 times more likely to be killed once they finally decide to leave that domestic violence relationship. So we really try to work with them to help empower them to make the best decisions, because it's not as easy as just walking out the door. There's always strings attached with that. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for victims in need of immediate assistance, help, guidance, coaching, and safety planning. People can call 1-800-799-7233. Again, that's 1-800-799-7233 to get help in our community for domestic violence.
Why the CASA volunteer is so important to this mission, because we're one of the first steps to stopping the cycle of domestic abuse. We know from reports that 50% of kids who experience abuse later on to go on into adulthood to continue to experience abuse, either as a continued victim or as a perpetrator. And what's important as the CASA volunteers, we step in, we check on the child, we report back to the courts, we make sure that child is placed in a safe home so they are no longer a victim of abuse and they are no longer a potential perpetrator of abuse.
Domestic violence is difficult because there's not always overt signs that it's happening, but sometimes you just know that there's something that's wrong and you want to support either a family member, a friend, a neighbor that you think might be going through something. And the best thing to do is to try to have a private conversation and just let that individual know that they're there. They may not tell you that anything is going on, but just sometimes knowing that you're a resource or that you're around if something's happening and they need help, that you're a safe person that they can reach out to. Because again, there's just a lot of unknowns that occur in those dynamics with domestic violence, and we want to keep people as safe as possible. Sometimes they cannot use the phone. Sometimes they cannot use even an electronic device to reach out for help because perhaps their abuser is so controlling and making sure that they don't have the ability to reach out. So we want to make things as safe as possible. So the best thing, like we said, is just to reach out and let someone know that you're available. Would be the first thing. Second thing is really helping to help them stay safe, especially if children are involved, because oftentimes the domestic violence perpetrators will use children to control their victims. And that's another factor that we have to take into account when we talk about domestic violence and the effects that it has on families. Oftentimes there's monetary control, there's economic abuse, there's more than just physical violence that could be occurring in a family that still torments the victims. And so it's just important that people on the outside looking in be as understanding as possible and as patient as possible with domestic violence victims, because we never know the effects of an intervention would have on that family.
Hi there, Jenny Smith here with Snooze Mattress Company, and I have the pleasure of being here with two of my favorite humans. Mr. Zane Grant and Miss Jessi Onis from CASA of Pueblo. They do amazing work in our community. Such amazing work that my husband and I feel like we need to help make a difference. So not only am I on the board, but the whole month of October, we are donating a portion of our proceeds to CASA. So please, please, please help us support this amazing nonprofit who does amazing work in our town.
CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates. Jenny is one of our advocates as well, as a board member, and we encourage any of our community members to get involved with CASA. It's a pretty easy mission. The work is not easy, but what we do changes lives, and so we invite you to get involved today. And Jessi, why don't you give us the contact information?
Yeah, you can learn more about us on our website at casaofpueblo.org, and make sure you save the date. We have our 20th anniversary gala coming up. It's Saturday, April 23rd, 2022.